Hello everyone, I'm back with another video. This time I'm going to be going over EB02. I figured I'd try something different for this set because it's a little bit different and a little bit smaller set. I figured I'd try going over all of the cards in the set, just briefly, kind of give my impressions as I go through them. I have looked at the set, but I don't think I've fully taken in the full set, so this will be kind of interesting. I do still plan to do my Blast tier list style videos, but because I already did the Luffy in my previous one, I just wanted to cover the cards in the set, and we'll save the next Blast tier list for OP11, and let's just see how it goes. So just getting into it, this first card here is one of the SPs from the set, or the equivalent of the SPs. They have the leaders from old sets with the gold. I think these are really cool. And I hope that they continue doing this, maybe with EB sets. The SPs for EB sets are something that's harder to do when you have less cards. So I think this is a neat way of doing things, especially if they can do it once a year or so and then get all of these in circulation. I feel like that'd be a pretty cool thing to do. So the first couple cards are the 3 leaders from EB01 in that new style. Getting into the first card of actual EB02 though, we have Karoo. He's just a vanilla. I love the art on this one, so even though there's not much to say because it's vanilla, it is a good art. And we stand our duck-billed comrade here, our Nakama with a duck-bill. Next one we have the Sabo. We have a 2K counter here in the Revo army. Always important to watch your 2K counters. And I think that this one, like the one from OP10, I think that when we get a leader that benefits and kind of lets you spam out cards in the Revolutionary Army type, I think these are the kinds of cards that are going to be relevant. This Activate main here, where you can rest him to give a different character plus 2,000 power. That's the perfect kind of ability you want to have on a guy that you're just bringing out kind of for free. When you don't find, maybe if you're in red, the Karasu or something like that, and you need a backup. That makes it a perfectly reasonable card to put into the battlefield. So this is definitely one that I'll be watching for future Revolutionary Army leaders. Next, we have this Chopper. I'm actually pretty excited about this one. I think when I started playing Chopper a little bit in OP09, I was amazed at how powerful an aggro deck it was. Even if it's not quite Zoro, the amount of pressure you could put out, particularly with the Odyssey Choppers, was really good. And this fits into that leader perfectly. You can tell that it's kind of split between a couple different decks that it's built for. The Dawn ×2 here works really well with SD21 Luffy, making it something that if it gets cheated out off of the OP08 Chopper, that it can be protected using the SD21 Luffy's ability if necessary. And then giving your Dawn rested to your leader character is perfect for for either just swinging with the 08 Chopper, or putting on your leader, or in the most common case will probably be with Zoro. So this is just a great card all around for the archetype, and I'm really excited that we get to see it. Another thing that is that I'm just realizing right now, it being a 3,000 power card means you can summon it with the Alabasta Chopper, which is really important, just because that Alabasta Chopper in a lot of times just doesn't have any good targets. So this being able to come out as a target there is real great. And then to top it off with that Chopper, we have a wonderful little altar here. And then to top it off for this Chopper, we have a cute little altar here. I do like the art on this one quite a bit. Looks like he's looking in the mirror at his hat here. It's just such a cute scene from the anime/manga, and I like it. Next we have another vanilla here. for the Achino family. To be honest, I don't know why they make some of these. He doesn't even have like a type that would be relevant anywhere. If he were a film character, then I could see there at least being some justification. But this archetype's never getting into support, so this is just pure back filler. That's okay. Next, we have the fake Straw Hat Crew. This one is fun just because of the characters it represents. And I do kind of like that it on your turn can be the 2-cost 5k. I could see this seeing play in maybe a Sanji. Just coming out really cheap and being able to get that swing off really early. But at the expense of on your opponent's turn, it's really weak and it just immediately gets cleared, which is ultimately fine. If you're going to be throwing away a cheap card like this, that's kind of what you want. It not having counters, probably the biggest downside against it. Even though this, obviously putting it down to 1k power is really detrimental. It not having counter is particularly problematic. But I am kind of interested to see if anyone finds a Sanji list maybe that uses this guy. Next we have I guess this is our first super rare. We have the Yamato. I'm really interested in this one for the Ace deck. I know the Land of Wano makes it perfect for the red-green Odin, but I'm more interested in Ace. I do want to try this at least once during EB01. I've kind of got a list of decks I want to try out in EB01. It's unfortunate that this set is so short because I won't be able to probably try them all. But Ace is definitely on my list of ones to try. It works really well with the Odin deck because it gives that Rested Dawn is relevant for the thing. It's less so in Ace, but you can still get an extra attack out of it. And then it coming down with Rush is pretty awesome. So that's pretty cool. And then we have a very nice alt art to go with it. I think I like it probably less than the yellow Yamato alt art we have from PRB and the OP01, but this is definitely up there in as far as Yamato arts go. Again, one of the downsides that's going to keep it from seeing immense amount of plays is just not having counter, but that is solved in the Odin deck. So if the Odin deck ever comes back, I think that this will be a pretty big part of it. Next, we have, getting into our event, we have the Cloven Rose Blizzard. This one is interesting because it costs 3, so it's perfect for giving you the Rested Dawn to use with Chopper, the Chopper leader. And it essentially is, for 3 costs, you get 2k power across 3 of your characters. Drum Kingdom specific, Drum Kingdom or is it just Animal? I'd have to remember. So there are a little bit of limitations because the leader ability is limited. But I feel like this is probably just a really good role filler. 3,000 power is enough to get rid of a jump blocker, and then giving you enough power to get through with 3 different animals is probably a really good spot to be. And then these trigger events in red can always trip up your opponents. A notable card that I could see getting hit with this is the Punk Hazard Chopper card, where it on your turn, so during your opponent's turn, it's only a 4k power, so you can pop it with this, which is pretty cool. Next, we have the first of our music events. I do really like these events for the kind of I wish I knew the correct term for it. The storyboard arts. I think that the card itself is maybe a touch too out there. I would have probably been fine with it being a regular card frame just with the art here. But I think these are going to be really interesting ones to pay attention to as we go forward. There's the cost for more cards is pretty common. And I think that there's going to be decks all the time that are just looking for something to use their searches on. And it's got the perfect kind of trigger. It's not like one of the draw one effects that you sometimes see on these searcher events. Being able to run through the top 4 is pretty good. So I do like this whole cycle of cards. Finally, we have the stage here. We have First Thousand Sunny. I think there's more than several in this deck. This one is essentially a mix between STO1 Luffy and Dragon, where it's giving the given Dawn or the attached Dawn to one of your other characters, but it's just the one instead of two, so it kind of splits the difference between them. I don't think this one will probably see play. There is maybe a world in the future where we do see something that synergizes with it, but I don't think we're there yet. Next we have the leader. This guy here is going to be a menace from if our meta is anything like what we saw in Japan, but it will be a short time, and then we'll be on to blue-purple. This deck does stay relevant, but just the amount of Dawn that you get to spend on a turn with this ability, as long as you're finding your Sanji and Puddings, is quite intense. One of the things I'm really interesting to see how it plays out is what happens when your opponent goes to play the Foxy Chopper. Is there any counterplay that comes up where you can choose not to attack so that they can't get rid of that chopper, and then they lose access to their ability on the following turn? I do think it'll be an interesting point of counterplay that probably won't come up too often, but the times that it does, it's going to be super impactful, and your opponents are going to get thrown off by that play. So just pay attention to that. Next, this is the alt art. I'm not a fan of this one just because of how red the card art is, but it's for green purple leader. I like the manga face leaders the best, and one of the components to that is that all of the cards look like the color that they are. This one kind of breaks that rule. I'm not strictly opposed to it from an art point of view, but I just wish they'd accented a lot more green and purple into it just to give it the appearance of a green purple thing, especially because we have other mono red Luffy leaders. There's definitely going to be some room for confusion, especially when people start bringing their customs to locals and stuff like that. So great art. I wish it was better tied with the card itself. Now getting into green proper, we have Arlong. This is the card with way too much text on it, but I am kind of interested to see what green yellow Arlong does. I don't know if green yellow Arlong is one of the ones that I'll make time to try in EB02, but it is definitely one that kind of stays on the outsides of my mind whenever I'm reviewing cards, especially in the context of next set, where we get a lot more Fishman type cards with Jinbei and Shirahoshi both being present. So one that's quite interesting, even if I think it's probably got a few too many lines of text to make it relevant. The alt art on it is pretty insane. I do like how crazed he looks. Not necessarily my favorite art, but it definitely conveys kind of the mad shark, what's it called? The mad shark aura that he wants to give off, which is pretty neat. Next we have Gaimon. This guy, it's crazy to think how long it's been since this character was relevant in the story, but he's still getting cards and stuff like that. I think this one's a fun one. It's definitely a card that is very specifically for the Kuro leader who needs a bunch of cheap East Blue characters to take advantage of his leader ability. So it's good to see some older leaders getting support. And this one does have some niche ability if you can find your Sarfunkel with it. Next, Carrot. This is an interesting 2K. I am happy to see them do this. They did it also when we get to purple. They do a similar thing to this in Water 7. But just a card that kind of enables you to play some of the more fringe playable cards that are like type locked, that are just hard to justify running just because of their how dead they can be in hand sometimes. So being able to dig 7, looking for a card at the cost of 1 Dawn is really a pretty fair payoff. I don't know if you would ever run 4 Zoe, especially if you're digging 7, but I'm sure there's the math somewhere to run some number of Zoe in your deck when you're running this in the carry deck, and then take advantage of maybe the 0 cost event to get rid of other copies of Zoe. Because I think that it's neat that we can have these kind of niche stages that get to see play because of something like this, where it's such a flexible card. It does so much for the 1 Dawn. Next, we have our Starfunkel to go with Gaimon. It's nice that this one gets to play the other one, which is perfect for what Kuro needs. Kuro's not one that I've ever played myself, but I remember seeing it being talked about as a tech for Whitebeard way back when. And so it'd be fun to see somebody bring back Kuro. And this would be, if he ever comes back, this will definitely be a card that they consider. Next, we have our Jewelry Bonnie. I wish this one had a little bit more text for green-yellow. Especially because the Dawn you get active is at the end of the turn. You don't even get to use that Dawn for leader ability. I understand that this card is for the Bonnie leader. But, you know, as a green-yellow player, I'd always like to see more cards for us. The freeze ability, I think, is one that people underestimate its strength. And I would like to see more Carrot 5-cost Bonnie style cards and see them be successful. Because I do think it's a strong ability in green that's just hard to probably to balance. So they have to like use it pretty sparingly. The alt art for this one's pretty great. This is inside the restaurant when we first are introduced to Bonnie on Savoti. And it's pretty fun thing. Next, we have our Chopperman. I really do like Chopper, and this one fits perfectly for the OP08 Chopper deck. Its name is even set so that you can use Here Look with it and play out, allow you to get some board spam. I don't know if this 100% replaces the Law that I was running previously, but it definitely is a card to consider. If it had blocker, then this would 100% be the card that replaced Law. But without blocker, I am curious where this one will, what spots it will take in the Chopper deck. So yeah. Next, we have the Nami. This is one of the cards I'm most interested in this set because of Red Green Law. I really want to play Red Green Law, so expect that in the coming month. Being able to get rid of Curly Dedan and just have mainly Straw Hat Crew stuff is really something that I think is going to be good for Red Green Law, even if it doesn't stick necessarily long term, because if having Namis that can't search each other does add a fair bit of bricks, but being able to kind of diversify your 2Ks I think is probably a good spot for the deck. But this is definitely among the cards I'm most excited for in the deck. Another one where I wish there was a touch more green, or it was a slightly less red in the background. It helps that she's got her green outfit, but I still do like this thing. If they had done this just a little more blue, like the sun was just a little higher in the sky, maybe hide it back here, then I think that this card would have been real nice. Well, it already is real nice. I think it could have been even better. Next, we have the Buggy, another one of those cards that is making me consider running Arlong, just as a card that you can play out and give your leader double attack. That can be a lot of pressure you can apply late into the game while still establishing a body. Because he's got the trigger, he's 4 cost or less. Kind of an interesting one. Also interesting in a deck like if we ever see another banished leader. Robin is great with banish. We have Yamato with double attack. finding another green-yellow leader who can kind of split the difference between the two, this guy could be relevant there. This Zoro here is one of the cards that I think is really interesting for the blue-green Zoro and Sanji. Because of the pseudo rush, one of the cards that I was experimenting with when I was running it before Jinbei got banned was the Fisher Tiger, as a card that could attack into my opponent's characters right away and then get restood with the leader ability. So getting rush and a restand can be really useful in pressuring your opponent's characters, especially because this guy taps down one of your opponent's characters. So I do think this one is pretty interesting, and I'd like to see what comes up with this one in the blue-green Zoro and Sanji. Next, on to our second of the events. Like I said with the first one, I think these are all interesting. I think green has one of the more useful ones because of its good top-end options. This could potentially let you run fewer of them individually and still be able to find them with some consistency, which, depending on the exact balance, might be able to get a few bricks out of your deck, just because you can always just cast them for 2 and keep digging for other cards. Next, we have Gum Gum Giant Pistol. This one I think will be interesting because inevitably we will get a leader in Straw Hats that is green and black. And when we do get that, we are going to be able to run this one plus Giant Gatling, I think is what it's called, the Dressrosa, all the Dressrosa events, and we can have a supermassive double swinging, double at 2 times attacking Dressrosa Luffy, which I think would be a lot of fun. And this card would make that combo even stronger, especially because the character already is not going to come active during the refresh phase. The downside on it is negligible in that situation. Next, we get into our blue here. This one, I think they're trying to aim at the blue-green Sanji leader from EB02. Otherwise, I'm not sure exactly what they're aiming for with this one. It can be decent in that spot. The one downside is that Sanji is limited on how many characters you can have on board while still getting the effect. So him playing out another one may limit your ability to get there. Another card that I could see this working with is the Zoro that we saw earlier in the blue-green Zoro and Sanji, where you can play out this to play out the... oh, no, it doesn't play out the other one because he has a base effect. Okay, so I'm not 100% sure outside of blue-green Sanji where this one could see play, unless we get a leader in the future that kind of punishes characters with abilities, in which case maybe he could come in and kind of help a vanilla go wide deck in the future, which would be pretty interesting. The alt art on this one, another great card. I do like that we're getting all of the Straw Hats, or a lot of the Straw Hats, with these alt arts. I will have to take a picture sometime of my room once it's or my office once it's clean, so I can show off some of the card displays I have. And this is the kind of card that would be perfect on the wall. Not necessarily a strong card, but it's a great art, and it fits with the character pretty well. Next, we have this Crocodile. This one is interesting. I think that this effect of when your opponent's character is returned to the owner's hand by your effect is pretty interesting. I don't know if it's specifically going to be seen play in OP01 Tofi, or if we're looking at Boa, or maybe a future leader. But this is the kind of card that I would watch, just because it's a neat and kind of unique effect, this wording here. And I could definitely see them putting this on a leader in the future, and this being kind of like the first attempt to see where this ability goes. Next, we have Sogeking, who's not Usopp, but he is Usopp. His ability to kind of set up your draws a little, well, not set up your draws, but filter your hand a little bit and then get rid of a little guy. I do wonder with all of these bottom or bounce 1 costs, if we're ever going to see another blue-black leader that maybe doesn't have quite the same abilities as Sakazuki, but I wonder how close we can get to Sakazuki without going overboard. Obviously, the promo Sakazuki is is way worse than the other one, but I do think that there's somewhere in between the 2 Sakazukis we have that could be a fair deck in the meta, and I wonder if all of these bottom and bounce 1 costs would fit in a deck like that. Next, this Rosinante. I've seen some interesting videos about this guy in the Rosinante deck. Well, obviously, because it's leader locked. But as a way of generating a ton of value and then using your leader ability to protect the guys you get out of it. This is definitely a very strong ability and is set up to do some interesting things, especially if you can set up a spot where you can protect them. I actually wonder if it wouldn't be possible to look at some Odyssey type cards with this, since they get value off of being rested and coming in with other rested cards. This would be able to bring out any of the 2 cost Odyssey cards rested and potentially turn on their effects right away. And then if you've got maybe some of the other Odyssey cards that restand, that could be an interesting little niche for this kind of a card to go. Also in Don Quixote Pirates, we have the, what's his name? In OPO4, there's the restanding blocker if you have enough Dawn left up. And I wonder if there isn't something we could take advantage of there, where we get blocks from leader, blocks from other guys, and you really protect a bunch of 2-drops that are getting a ton of value. But we'll see. Next, this is one of the ones I'm excited for because I think it could see play in a lot of different decks. Being a version of Sanji's Pilaf, but with counter, is great. I do kind of look forward to the day when the OPO3 Nami leader rotates, so that we don't have to always see restrictions like this on cards that just draw. But I do think that it's generally fair and helps give some interesting advantages to running a 4-life leader that aren't just interesting abilities. You do get some interesting cards to go with it. Going along with this VV, we have this alt art. I do like the art. I wish that VV here did have a little bit more of the anime in her. This definitely has a bit of generic anime girl aura to it, but we can forgive a little bit of that because VV's a great character. Next, we've got the Vista. I do really want to see this come up more. We want removal based on power. It is understandably strong and something that's going to be hard to balance, but there are so many cards. Black gets such easy access to removal based on cost and has kind of the monopoly on the ability to affect the effectiveness of removal. I really would like to see Red's niche of like minus power start to come up and let red be the other supporting removal color, and then you can have kind of that split between black and red. It makes it interesting for black-red leaders because they won't have a clear identity between the two, but I really would like to see red kind of rise to be like the other half of black, and then you can split some of your removal between the two without worrying about having black power up every single removal spell in the game. You can have some like this that are specifically powered up by red instead. This ace here is actually one of the cards I'm interested in. The BY ace from ST13 is one of the cards that somebody had asked me to do a deck tech on. And I do think that this is a really interesting leader, and I think that this is a really effective card at enabling it. Being able to look for that 2 cost and put it into your hand and then onto the battlefield really enables the little brothers from that SD13 deck. The fact that it comes out after your ace is a little awkward, but I do think that there's definitely a world where you can play out this ace, use it to play out the 2 cost, use leader ability for 2 more Dawn, so at 7 Dawn to get one of the 5 costs on top. And then actually probably you would do 2 on lead, put a 5 cost on top, then play out this ace to pick out the correct brother, play him out. And so for 7 Dawn, then you're getting to be a 7k leader, get 2 5 costs, and get a 9k leader swing, which is a lot of value for 7 Dawn. So I am interested to see what this one does. I don't know if it will be one of the few decks that I do play, but it is definitely on the short list of possible ones between now and OP11. Next, this is just a vanilla here. This I did not realize this was filler content at first when I was watching the show for the first time. I only found out about it later. It's a pretty decent arc as far as filler arcs go, and fun at the end of the day. Next we've got a protection event. This one is pretty interesting. I don't know what kind of deck wants this, but it essentially makes all of your rested characters have immediately go to effectively 1k counters for any of combat or for all of combat, which I think is a really interesting ability at the cost of using an event that costs 2. So you have to hold up 2, play it, and then all of your guys essentially go up to maxes for their power. And it also lets you maybe get rid of some counterless events, maybe, or other things. So I do think that this is kind of an interesting one. I don't know if it quite gets there, but one that I will pay attention to, especially as some of the really event-heavy decks start to come down the pipeline in maybe OP 12 and 13. Next, we've got our third Searcher event. This one I think will have, like green, have some pretty decent impact, because one of blue's issues is all of their top end comes from different archetypes for the most part, and so being able to unify it under a single Searcher I think is going to be potentially effective. Now going back to the carrot card that we already went over, here is the Water 7 version, looking for Galileo Company. I think this is really important for Iceberg. It is a very big power boost for him. I don't know if that makes him viable, but this is exactly the kind of card that he wants, just for making that Galileo Company that much more hittable. So yeah. All right, next we have the Clabber Mountain. This one is interesting. I am interested where they're going to go with the merry-go on the field thing. I don't expect that we will see a ton of this unless they make a leader that really cares about stages. But if they do, this could be a very interesting bit of text that we see come back in relevance later. Gaining blocker off of a 1-cost 1k counter can be pretty useful late in the game, but it being situational also limits it. So the merry-go's will have to be pretty good or will be supported by their leader, but this could be a card that I think sees play in the future. Next, we got another vanilla. I think this guy's from a movie, unless it's a anime extended episodes style special or something like that. Pretty sure he's from a movie, so I'm surprised this one doesn't have film type. But a vanilla nonetheless, so we'll just move on. Here is one of the most impactful cards of the set, specifically with how well it works with the leader. This is going to be very key. You're going to need to know how you react when your opponent plays out the sun, juice, and pudding. Have your game plans for getting rid of it, because it will warp the game around it if the opponent can find it. It's one that I am interested to see if we can find other leaders for it to work in. The purple-black leader getting its own starter, I think, gives even more credence to the idea that this card is going to be valuable going forward beyond just green-purple Luffy. So definitely one to watch. If you can find them cheap, it's probably worth picking them up. And if you can find this one cheap, this is such a good art. I really, really like this art. I want to get this one, if not for playing with, just to have, because this would be the kind of card that I would add to one of my displays. It's just such a cute card. Best Girl Robin we have here. This is actually a pretty relevant card. One of the things that I'm probably going to try a list for. I don't know if I'll play it for full locals, but I do want to revisit the idea I've had in the past of doing a lot more Straw Hat focused Nego Robin deck. And this one would fit into that. Looking at top 3 for a Straw Hat type crew card is one that can find Gum Gum Giant. So as long as Gum Gum Giant's not banned anytime soon, I'm definitely going to test out the Straw Hat crew focused Robin, and I do think that this one makes the cut. Even if on the turn that you do that play where you play out Robin, down -1, get Gum Gum Giant, use Gum Gum Giant, you go to 9 on the following turn. I think in a more aggressive one that relies less on heal and more on counter out of hand, I think that could still be a good play. And it's got a nice alt art here. I'm gonna definitely have to pick up one of these again for maybe display, if not playing with it. Next we have the Frankie. This is one that I'm interested. We have this style ability. This is probably going to be one of the ones that's really strong in the upcoming Sanji deck. But going along with the idea of a Straw Hat focused Robin, I have always wondered if there isn't a version of Robin that uses a lot more Dawn Minus early in the game, using her leader ability to kind of negate it when you don't have access to an effect like this, and then not using leader ability all the time otherwise, and just taking advantage of Banish. But those are all just ideas kind of floating around in my head, and I think that Frankie could be a part of that hypothetical thing. Even though Robin is obviously not the core when they say leaders of the Straw Hat type crew, I do like to keep my mind open to the possibilities of Robin being the one that they refer to. So yeah. This Magellan, this one's pretty interesting. I think that this one fits very well in Hannibal and in potentially Magellan as well. Playing out a 2-cost character lets you play out maybe the I'm pretty sure Little Sadie's a 2-cost. I'd have to refresh my memory on that. Let me see if I have it here. She's a 3-cost. So not quite the card I remembered, but this 2-cost is exactly what you need for Hannibal. So I can definitely see this being pretty relevant in Hannibal as a way to kind of get wide and not be harmed by the bouncing ability inherent to his ability. Let me just refresh what Hannibal does. Hannibal, yeah, this guy. Bouncing a 2-cost or whatever is often pretty steep cost, even though you're getting a ramp as active with it, just because you don't get to maintain a board if you're bouncing it all the time. So this one I think is particularly interesting in Hannibal. German 66. This one, especially in light of the Koala leader that we saw for OP12, a event that summons characters is one that we haven't seen too often before. We have from the previous EB set, we have the Did Someone Say Kami card, and a few other cards that can summon characters with event effects, which is not something that is hurt by Koala's ability, which affects character effects, summoning things. So this one's kind of interesting. The other thing that it also does here is it allows other non-Reiju leaders to use some of the Germa package. I don't think that we're there yet, but a couple more cards like this, and I could see that the Germa package opening up to other leaders other than Reiju. So one I'm keeping my eye on, especially because of the future proofing that it seems like they intentionally put in the context of Koala. Again, with the music events, this one here in purple, I think with purple getting so much Straw Hat focus, we probably won't see this one as often, but I could definitely see some other non-Straw Hat purple decks picking this one up just as a way to find some varied non-Straw Hat style cards. And another card that's going to make a big impact on the meta just because of how it interacts with Sanju Pudding, we have the Merry Go here. Lets you draw a card if you have a Straw Hat crew, and then if you have less Dawn, which is going to be a big deciding factor, a lot of the other decks that aren't green purple are not. This is not going to be true for, giving your guy +2 cost. Most of the other purple Straw Hats are ramp focused rather than recover or catch up focused. So this will be interesting to see in green purple, but I would be interested to see if we find a future leader that can take advantage of this this ability. We got another vanilla here. I don't think I recognize this guy at all. He's probably from some filler arc, not one that I paid attention to. So let's just move on. Jonathan, often considered the best filler arc that we have for the anime. The G8. This guy was a lot of fun, and it was such a good setup for the future arcs with the future arc with Mary. It really established how important Mary was to the rest of the crew. Next, we have our Sengoku. This is a pale imitation of Moria, but it is an imitation of Moria. You get your blocker effect on your Sengoku. He also can be a slightly weaker version of the Wincon version character, and being able to play specifically in Navy type is putting a kind of a cap on his ability, but so you can't play Rebecca as the main one. But this is a potentially relevant ability, one that I will pay attention to, because I do think that this is kind of a lot of the ways there for a Moria replacement. We'll just have to see if the restrictions they put on it are just a smidge too much to make it relevant. Also, a really neat alt art for this one. I really like this one. Next, we have this Law. I am interested to see if we can get a full deck that really focuses on trashing cards from the opponent's hand. This one being Dressrosa means you can play it in the Usopp leader and tie it with bounce effects and maybe get some value out of that combination. One of the things that I didn't get enough chance to test with all the way back in OP01 is there's a promo Law. Let's go pull that up real quick. Where is he? This guy. And there was a line in Blue Purple Crocodile where you were very bounce focused and you use this as your way to eat through their life. Especially when Pudding came out, there was the line of if your opponent has the 6 or more cards, you can play this one out, give them a 7th card, and then play out a Pudding and wipe them back down to 5, which was a pretty potent Tendon play, with the downside, obviously, of being shields down in your Blue Purple Croc list. But an interesting play nonetheless. and this kind of discardability on a law makes me think back to that. Also a pretty good alt art here. We got our Robin here in the corner, which is always great to see, and Law is one of my other favorite characters, so great card. Next one, this is I think potentially a very important card for Thriller Bark. I don't think that -1 cost is enough, but this is really important because this is only the second card in the Thriller Bark type that does the minus cost, that isn't just your 2k Perona. And Moria and Perona both need as many of these little bits of effects as they can get, because they're always just a tiny bit too limited on their options for these. So this guy being something that plays nice with Thriller Bark and giving you the -1 cost is nice to see. And next we have the Bluno. I do like this kind of, you can trash this character effects to get something back. It kind of works like how the Germa 66 cards do. In this case, though, it only matches the power because you can only get a 5 from a 5. This could be really important in a future CP leader where you have very important cards that you need to have stick. And I could see this being a relevant card in that situation, just as something you counter with the card early, and then you can use Bluno to play it back out later. So when I'm watching, even though CP has not been any of my preference in leaders. Next we have the Brook. I really like that the Brook is so Laboon focused. This seems like a fun card to play, even if it's not great. And I do think that there is definitely some idea that this could be good, as it provides, it replaces itself when you play it, and when your opponent KOs it, it replaces itself on board as well. So there's a lot of like good value card on this. I don't know if there's a deck that needs that kind of value, but I do think that it's a neat effect to have. Another great alt art for Brook. Probably not quite as good as his first incarnation with the alt art, with the 3-drop one, but another great one to see. Garp here, it's so nice when you get to see cards that are like tailor-made for a specific deck. This one I don't think needed the type blocking to make it relevant specifically in Garp, just because of what it specifically does. But I do like that you get a lot of ability out of this, specifically in the Garp leader. Not sure that Garp is on my short list, but it is definitely on the longer list of things that I could consider playing for EB01. Now into our black event for the songs. I do think that black is also a color where you've got kind of your options for your top end are a little varied, especially now that Moria is gone and not everyone just runs Moria. There's a lot more openness in what you might need to grab for your top end that doesn't maybe come in the archetype that the rest of your deck is. So while less important than I think the green one and the blue one are, I do think the black one is potentially interesting. If Moria was still unbanned, this card would be even more interesting, though, as a way to find Moria in the deck. This one is actually one I don't think I've read up to this point. We have this is a very good and flexible card. 3 cost is a bit expensive, but having the flexibility to KO 2 cost or to give -4 to something, that's a lot of relevant text that you could give, especially if there was something, if you're running cards that let you discard for some effect. I could definitely see running some number of these. Unfortunately, it not being searchable by any existing stuff is a knock against it, but I do think that this is kind of an interesting flexible card that could see room as a tech card in some decks in the future. And now this is the one that I think most people were worried about coming into this EB02 meta, just because Enel was already a deck that was really annoying to deal with, and this would only make it more so. I do think the banning of Kingdom Come is one that will make this particular card less relevant than we might have seen otherwise. And hopefully we can see either Enel or Kalgara make a presence for themselves out of this, because I think if they do, it should be pretty reasonable. This card has turned out to be a lot more fair than people were worried at the beginning. But it is definitely a very strong one if you can get these Skyline type leaders, and one to keep an eye on, because I do think that there is more room for additional Skyline type leaders. I could definitely see us get a wiper leader in the future, which I think would almost certainly have to be yellow to go with Upper Yard. The alt art for it, not my favorite, but it definitely embodies Enel. He's a weirdo, and he looks like a weirdo here. So good card for matching the character, even if the art's not necessarily to my style. This one is from one of the specials. Yeah, this is a weird one. I think this is probably mostly pack filler. I don't think this card is ever really gonna come up. Sanji here, another Straw Hat Crew, and interestingly East Blue, which means that it would be searchable off of the green Nami from OP03, and could go in an Arlong deck, I could see, as a way to cycle out some of your dead cards, because that deck does run a couple duds. Give yourself a blocker, although it doesn't synergize the greatest with the leader. I do think that there is a bit of room for this to be entertained in that Arlong deck. And then we have a real neat alt art here. I'm trying to see what is this art from? I wonder if this is anywhere in particular, or if this is just an artist's rendition. I don't recognize the setting at all, and it being an East Blue card makes me think it should be from somewhere in East Blue. Is this Arlong Park maybe? This might be Arlong Park. The more I look at it, the more I think it is. This is probably the teeth from Arlong. So fun card here. This one doesn't have quite as bad the coloring issue where the card looks like a different color than it is. The yellow border, I think, helps make it stand out. Next, we got the Jimbei, just a 2K with a counter. This is exactly the kind of card that could get run in our Arlong deck. Trigger, 4 cost, decent body, 2K counter, lots of things going for it. It doesn't need to have much, and its trigger is actually relevant too for Arlong as another card that can come out of life as a trigger. Vegapunk. I haven't got to play Vegapunk recently, but Vegapunk was an interesting deck when I did get to play it. I have seen a couple of videos about optimal ways to play this guy, and I do think that it could very well be a pretty good upgrade for that deck, especially if you can manage the situation where you get to avoid this trash card. But I think even when you do, you're in a pretty decent spot. So one that I'll watch for the sake of Vegapunk. Wild art. I do like this kind of the more stylized art that we get sometimes. It's often a little more up to preference, I should say. And this one hits better for me than some of the other ones that are a little more wild arts. I do like when they overall go there and really do heavily stylized arts. Next, I vaguely remember, I think this movie, this is the or special. He's the one who comes after the Masinka or whatever, a couple cards back. Because it's a wind attacking ability, I don't think this card will see much play. If it was an on-play ability, there's definitely a world in which you can kind of take advantage of this. This is something we saw on Kuzan as an ability, and could be interesting if it were an on-play, not a win attacking. But it's probably a card to watch out for in your sealed pool if you play sealed in this set, because 3 cost will eat a vanilla attacker. Even if it's healing them, taking away their ability to play on board can be relevant. Now our final one of the song events. Yellow, I think, is one of the ones that definitely it gets advantage of from this one. Yamato and Ace and Big Mom and they all have different types. So having a single searcher that can hit all of your top end, particularly in Enel, or maybe a Kalgara who has most of their top end or most of their cards in one faction, but could benefit pretty heavily from another faction. I could see that being relevant here. Vegapunk would be another one where I could see this play. So definitely on the upper end of playable, I think, compared to the rest of this cycle. Next, we've got this event for trying Whole Cake Island. I do think that this one is interesting in that it's a counter event that can summon out a 5 cost from your hand. And costing 4 is really hard to hold up. So it's going to be very telegraphed until we get more leaders that really care about events and holding up this much. But this is a very powerful effect if you can pull it off. Finding the place where it is worthwhile is going to be tough, but definitely one to look for, because if you can make this work, I think this is a very strong effect. I believe this is our final card. Maybe there's one more after this. We have our second Merry-Go in the set. This one lets you flip one of your life face up, which could be useful for spotting upcoming triggers, potentially, or just a relatively free ability to just get an extra 1k. I don't think this one probably sees play until we see a leader who cares about it. This one being in yellow and the last one being in purple, maybe that means that we'll get a yellow-purple leader in the future that cares about stages, but we'll see. And I think we have... Oh, yeah, just the one more. Our final card here, the secret rare, this 6-cost Luffy who gains Rush if your leader is multicolored and your opponent has 5 or more Dawn cards. So, important Robin, even when she hits 6 Dawn, which is usually her third turn going first, this character will not be able to gain Rush, which is a little unfortunate, but I understand that's probably the piece they were trying to avoid, is having all of the purple leaders, if they can ramp on their 3 Dawn turn, being able to play this guy out with Rush. Playing a 7-cost Rusher out that early is tough to deal with. And then I think that this ability, especially in context of Sanji and Pudding and the green-purple leader, is very strong. I do want to try some number of this in a Straw Hat-focused Robin deck, because I do think that this ability to kind of close out game, you defend life a little more aggressively, ramp a little less with your leader, and then just try to get your opponent into a spot where they have really low cards in hand, and then you can slap down one of these and get in some multiple large swings with this, which I think can be really quite strong. So we'll see if that deck comes together, or if it just stays on Seaman in my head. But I do think that this is a card to watch. There's a lot of things to like about this card. And finally, I think, oh yeah, the alt art here. Not the biggest fan of this particular art, especially given the art that they gave to the manga here. Once it loads. This pose, I think, is one of the coolest scenes in the entire series. So the fact that they didn't do what they've done sometimes in the past, where they would use the manga art and then just not use the manga background, like we saw with the Law secret and with the Rayleigh secret, the Ace secret, Sabo secret. There's so many of the secret rares that are mangas where they just use the manga art and then use a different background. If they had done that with this card, I would be 100% sold and would definitely get it. In this case, if I get the manga, obviously I'm going to be happy with it. But if I just get these secrets, they'll probably get traded away, because I think I like this art better if we're going with secrets. So that is the end of the set.